Story 1. When our relationship ended, her actions showed that she was probably not single when we got together as she had said. Story 2. During very small disagreements, she would get irrational and say things like, "Give me back the pillow I got you." The level of pettiness and scorekeeping in such statements was eye-opening. I tossed her the pillow and told her to go on and leave. Instead, she got angrier, blamed me on her way out, and left the pillow. Story 3. If every ex of theirs is crazy, there are three possible explanations. They are lying about their past relationships. They have absolutely horrible taste in people, situational awareness, and insight. They are actually the crazy one. All three are bad. I have never met or dated anyone who claimed all their exes were bad that did not turn out to be a disaster themselves. I just did not always see it immediately. Story 4. She told me her ex left her because she was clingy and possessive. I thought he would be missing out. I should have seen the signs. Story 5. My ex-girlfriend from a year ago stopped speaking to me for a week shortly after we started dating. Her answer was, "Just to see if you were too needy." Needless to say, I ended things. I was single for over a decade before that, and I am happy with my own company. She was my welcome back to dating. Fortunately, I have found a good partner now. Things can always get better. You just have to put yourself out there and not tolerate poor behavior. Story 6. It dawned on me after roughly 3 months. The honeymoon phase was over, the pink glasses were put down, and I realized she was mentally a teenager. She could hardly make any decision on her own, was highly dependent, and could not hold a serious conversation for longer than 2 minutes. It was fun while it lasted, but after noticing all these things, I understood why she had never broken the 6-month relationship barrier. Story 7. Constant need for external validation. Extremely explosive temper and suicidal tendencies. Retail addiction. Credit card debt. Story 8. She was a case study for avoidant attachment. She said she never had a boyfriend in the last 10 years but had dozens of situationships. She did not want monogamy or any kind of commitment, was very flaky, and lived her life in extremes. It was sad because I could tell deep down she wanted love and affection but had problems giving and receiving it. Story 9. When her frustration tolerance level was very low, having the seatbelt give her slight trouble was enough to cause a near-screaming tantrum where she would angrily tug on the buckle. It was common for her to lose her temper at the slightest inconvenience. Story 10. The signs are usually there much earlier than you think. Most people just choose to ignore them because their emotions and desires are in control. The whole, "I'll fix them" or "that trait won't last." Now, rose-colored glasses. People only change when their bad habits hurt them badly enough to force a change or when someone does their habit back at them. Most people create some fantasy, a character of the person, and when the reality of the person shows through, they get mad. Either A, the person created the facade and hid behind it, or B, the viewer created the fantasy and got mad when reality didn't meet their expectations. The things you ignore in the beginning, your gut instinct, your brain telling you, "Hey, this isn't good," that's what will end the relationship in the end. People will ignore their own mechanic when buying a car. "I'll fix it," because they get so wrapped up in the pretty paint job that they ignore the burnt rubber all over behind the drive wheels, the fuel smell that indicates a leak, or milky oil or coolant. Sometimes the seller is being shady, but many times the buyer is so enraptured they refuse to do what's good for them or be honest with themselves even in ugly ways. Nobody is perfect, and we all have flaws. Yes, acceptance works both ways, but there are definitely times when you are signing yourself up to be the punching bag for issues that were evident to everyone else whose feelings weren't involved. The friend that tells you she's cheating isn't trying to hurt you. They are trying to stop the infection before it gets worse for you. Be the brother, sister, friend, parent, or mechanic friend to yourself. The flags are there. That's why we call them red flags. Story 11. I dated a girl for a week. She started talking about another guy she liked to make me jealous, I guess. I broke up with her, and she threatened to harm herself. It has been about 10 years, and from what I have heard, she is still single. Story 12. Addiction. She was a wonderfully sweet, kind, and generous woman, but knowing that was her way of coping was heartbreaking. She had experienced a lot of trauma. It was not so much about the one who got away. More so, I hoped she could quit. If that sounds too wholesome, I briefly considered dating another woman who got drunk every weekend and got into fights, expecting others to save her. Absolutely not. She was beautiful but completely unhinged and hid it well. I also heard she hit her ex. I decided against that. While being lonely can be difficult, the alternative can be legitimately worse. Story 13. When I started realizing how many jobs she had while we were together and why every time she left, it was someone else's fault. Story 14. It seemed fine early on when it was mostly just us hanging out. Once we started branching out into groups more, it was clear she had no idea how to engage with other people. She talked loudly and over the top of everyone, rarely listened, and was often insulting. Her only real friends, as far as I could tell, were long distance and they just talked online, which made sense because it was rough spending time in person with her in anything other than one-on-one. The weekend before I broke up with her, we went camping with one of her friends who lived 6 hours away. We went to a party campsite next to ours for a bit, but I just couldn't be around her in that group after listening to her being unpleasant, so I went back to our campsite. Her friend and boyfriend joined me, and we were all having a good time and interacting well. Eventually, my girlfriend wore out her welcome with that group and came back to us. It instantly changed the dynamic as no one wanted to talk because it guaranteed she would take over the conversation. She was in a bad mood because several people, whether directly or indirectly, had told her to leave. Story 15. She became a teacher and needed multiple attempts to pass the final exams. Her evaluators told her that she was not suited for the job and that it would be irresponsible to let her work with children. She was devastated and very angry because it did not make sense. She was such a kind girl. Half a year later, I understood. She no longer needed me and revealed her true character. She lied, ended the relationship via messaging app, terrorized me, and destroyed my friend group. Nobody knows why. Her mother told me that she had many relationships and always ended them in this manner. Apparently, she was unable to control herself and at some point would lose control. This was worsened at school as the children stressed her. I cannot trust anyone. She now works as a teacher, by the way. I hope nothing problematic happens. Story 16. She is trying to tell me that she was waiting for the perfect man for 7 years and now she has found him in me. This makes no sense since I am nowhere near perfect. I guess I am still trying to figure it out. Story 17. Arguments over trivial matters or misunderstandings occurred, and then she would come back to me and tell me I was right. Even after 20 situations like that, she still couldn't simply agree with me. She rarely apologized for her mistakes. Emotional dysregulation, emotional immaturity, emotional reasoning, double standards, inability to understand my perspectives, fearful avoidant attachment, love bombing, self-sabotaging. The list continues, but I was blinded by her beauty and the intense intimacy. Despite all the difficulties, we had a beautiful, genuine connection that I fought for far too long. Story 18. A few of my girlfriend's friends broke up with their boyfriends. She would come home from ladies' night and make my week hell afterward. Then I got a chance to take a month-long trip in 3 months. Suddenly, our relationship was amazing. She came home from ladies' nights excited, and our sex life felt like it was, for the last time each night. When it came time to take my trip, it was postponed for 2 months. My girlfriend seemed oddly put out, confused and distracted, unable to tell me what was wrong. Then we had 2 of the best months ever. By now, all her girlfriends were in relationships again, and she came home after a girls' night. I said, "Everyone is so happy with how great our relationship is going. Why do you think it improved so much?" I said, "Well, when you heard I was leaving for a month, you never argued or fought with me. You seemed to take my delay personally, yet you could not tell me what it was about. Then we have had 2 more months of just enjoying each other. So, I think your friends all broke up with their boyfriends. They then convinced you to break up with me when I left for a month. That got delayed, and now they all have boyfriends, and we are on 5 months of the best our relationship has ever been. Is that right?" She looked confused but figured that since I didn't seem upset, it was okay to admit that she had, in fact, meant to break up with me 5 months ago and had indeed changed her mind. I then asked, "When you go for coffee on Mondays to be alone and do the crosswords, do you actually meet your ex-boyfriend's best friend?" This surprised her again, but it was true. They had been meeting at least once a week secretly for 5 months. She asked if I was angry. I said, "No. I think your plan of breaking up with me when I go on this trip is a great idea." She didn't understand what that meant until the day before the trip when my friends showed up to help me move all my things into storage. She even said, "But we were so happy." She was happy because she was single for 5 months while enjoying the benefits of having a boyfriend. Story 19. When she told me she had turned down paid paralegal training at her job, where she was then a legal assistant, I was surprised since that is a rare workplace benefit. She said it was because she expected to be pregnant and a stay-at-home mom within the next few years and did not see the point. At that moment, I realized her laziness combined with her frivolous spending habits were a huge red flag, and I decided to leave. Story 20. When she explained what her medications were for mitigating borderline personality disorder, there were other warning signs. However, individuals with borderline personality disorder often mask their behavior and portray themselves as victims of people in their history. It is not always obvious because some people genuinely experience abuse. Not everyone with an abuse history has borderline personality disorder. Story 21. When I met not her ex, but her friend group, no one was as accomplished, polished, beautiful, or kind as her. You could tell in about 5 minutes that they resented her for it. She was the punching bag of far too many jokes for it to be passed off as exclusively playful, but she endured it because these were her friends. They seemingly sabotaged her at every turn to keep her single while they found relationships so they could finally have something on her. It was brutal. I could only feign support for those friendships for so long before I finally told her what it looked like from the outside. We get married at the end of the year. Story 22. My ex is honestly a lovely person. There was a day when I just realized our energy levels are very different. She is very gregarious and always active. I equally enjoy a day hiking and a day resting on the couch watching movies. We joke that she has golden retriever energy. She is traveling the country now as an emerging musician. I am really proud of her. Story 23. Very early on, my wife was an introvert, and it took some effort to get her to agree to a date. I suspect that few people have the willpower to stick with it. We have been married for 30 years now. It was worth the effort. Story 24. Not my girlfriend technically, but I was sleeping with her for over a year. She said her last ex before her blamed her for cheating. Obviously, it was his fault. He decided to cheat. As harsh as this sounds, I won't deny that I understand why he did. I think she probably cheated on him too and never told me about it. She's a huge flirt but low-key and private about it. It seems like her life revolves around getting male attention. I don't want to judge her for that because I think about her a lot, and at one point my world seemed to revolve around her. It's obviously no way to live if you want to be in a committed, exclusive relationship. Thanks for reading and goodbye. It's always the cheater's fault in the end. If you suspect you're being cheated on, it is best to end the relationship. Only in rare cases is that not what one should do. Story 25. I love her, but my girlfriend has a lot of leftover trauma from her previous relationship. Story 26. When she told me how terrible her ex-husband was, or maybe when her children more or less confirmed it. Honestly, she was not single for long before we fell in love. She dated for only a few months after her divorce, and each partner tried to keep her after she ended things with them to be exclusive with me. She is honestly quite a catch. Story 27. When I started dealing with everything the ex-husband said she did to him, leopards do not lose their spots. Story 28. When she threatened me with a knife and started stabbing the bed because I did not want to drink more with her. Story 29. She texted me a picture asking if I liked her new hairstyle. When I responded yes, she said I only liked her for her physical attributes. Story 30. Let's just say that a couple of months before our wedding, her father told me, "She will be the worst and best part of your life." He was right about the first one. Story 31. Genuinely, I tend to go for confident girls. I just have to find the line between assertive, who will tell me what to do, and screaming and violent. So, when I met a girl who was highly sexual and assertive, I was absolutely happy and ready to engage. Probably on our third day waking up together, she spilled milk in the bed while eating cereal. I immediately started cleaning. I did not want a milk-stained bed, and the whole time she was screaming, "This is the stupidest thing. Don't clean up after milk. You should be asking if I'm okay. Do you know how I feel?" It took a few years for the situation to escalate to hitting. It took 10 years to get free. I wasn't even young. I was in my mid-20s, unattractive, and thought, this is probably the finest girl I'll ever have, and she says she wants kids. We can handle this. Story 32. Unresolved childhood trauma, anger, and my personal favorite, difficulty communicating. Bonus round. Does not flirt or know how to flirt. Story 33. Because of my borderline personality disorder, people abandon me after 6 months. People say that with therapy they can become much healthier, but the stigma is accurate. Someday someone will have to force her to get help, or she will die however it happens. Story 34. Honestly, about a year after my ex and I split, we tried for the second time to make a friendship work. However, I quickly realized everyone was right about her being manipulative. She always had to be right and would blame others for her faults. She was also very narcissistic. I am blessed to have an amazing support network to help me through that. Story 35. I dated a lot and several had red flags. One was very clingy. I couldn't even go to the bathroom without checking in first. This was before cell phones, and I came back to 5 messages on my answering machine. One kept trying to use stupid catchphrases. I realized at some point the only thing we had in common was our sex drive. We had great sex, so unfortunately it took me a long time to figure out. One didn't pick up on social cues. I acted different around my friends, so she thought we were fighting or something. She said very unhinged things. One literally punched me in the face. One broke up with me to date a woman. One from college didn't even want to split visits. One I caught cheating like, surprise. Hey, why are you kissing that guy? One refused to show any physical affection. Couldn't even hug her. And one was weirdly possessive. I needed to constantly show public displays of affection so everyone knew I was hers. I'm sure there are more, but that's what comes to mind right now. Story 36. I figured it out when she started talking about her ex's red flags, and I realized I was seeing those same signs in her behavior. Story 37. She spends every possible moment with her family. She is very close to them and has a strong emotional dependence that goes beyond normal family love. Most men do not want to spend every weekend with their partner's family. Story 38. When she did not put in effort to become healthy, even a simple walk around the block was too much effort. Story 39. At the time, she was 33 and I was 18. We were together for 4 years. Before that, her longest relationship was 6 months. I understood why after 1 year. Story 40. When I went to work, I had forgotten my phone. When I got home, I had a text from her. Hey babe, you forgot your phone. It's on the nightstand. Story 41. She had dated a few real losers before we met. It did not take me long to figure out that she was wonderful. We have been together for 46 years. Story 42. The last woman I was in a relationship with before meeting my wife was on paper the most ideal catch most people would meet in their lives. Absolutely gorgeous, a head-turner, always in amazing shape. She taught yoga part-time for fun. A PhD economist, usually the smartest person in the room, and incredibly charismatic and likable. Everyone would either want to be her best friend or have a crush on her. Honestly, I thought I was batting out of my league, and I probably was. Yet, at the age of 28, she had only been in one serious relationship that lasted about 2 years, and before that, a boyfriend in high school. What I found out was that she was prone to frequent, very intense emotional blowouts that were impossible to rationalize and really hard to work through. She would get disproportionately upset with me about relatively minor things, like me talking to her one friend too much at a birthday party. These episodes would go on for about 3 days, usually with her stonewalling or icing me out. These blowouts steadily became more frequent and were exacerbated when she had a few glasses of wine. It became taxing and ultimately destroyed the relationship after a year. I really hope she gets the growth she needs because, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, she was stuck in really toxic patterns that I don't think a healthy relationship could survive. Story 43. Constant need for validation and compliments. Nothing I ever did was good enough or impressive enough because it was not an idea she saw on TikTok. For example, she wanted me to cover my house in roses and petals to ask her to be my Valentine. When I took her flowers and dinner to her favorite restaurant, she told me it was not good enough and that I did not try. Story 44. My ex could not take the blame for anything. Every bad thing was always my fault. She also said I could not communicate but expected me to read her mind. You should know was her favorite sentence. Story 45. I haven't. I assume I got to bat before anyone else had a chance since they just moved in. But hey, I got lucky, and the only way they will be single again is if they realize the error of their ways and divorce me. Story 46. She is very intense and will confront police aggressively. She has also harmed people before in a foreign country. Some people see that and run, but I appreciate that when something goes bump in the night, I can give her a gun and she will have my back. Her biggest downside is that she thinks the entire world is racist. Sometimes it is not racism. Sometimes people are just unpleasant. Story 47. Man, it's happened several times. I went out with a woman for a while, and we finally got around to being intimate. She took off her water bra. Then, you know those yoga pants designed for women who are overweight or have loose skin, and the pants make you look toned and fit? She was wearing those as well. Credit to her for losing weight, but I didn't deserve to see what I saw. Second, I went out with another woman, and there was something off about her, but I didn't know what. I stuck around. She told me about her ex and how they were together for 6 years. She came home one day and he was gone. She sent a text, he said he went home, and he never reached out again. I thought, man, that's harsh. But after dealing with her for about a year, I understood why someone would ghost her. She was nonstop, extremely confrontational. Nothing was ever right, and she was always so combative about everything. I'm talking, I walked in the front door and all hell broke loose and we were in a raucous fight. I text her too much. I don't text her enough. I said, I think it would be cool to move somewhere else someday. And that turned into, oh, you want me to give up my life and just live in a shack at the beach, huh? So no, that first situation makes sense. Story 48. She spent too much time with her family at 27. I would try to make plans for the weekend, and she would be visiting her family that weekend. That happened at least twice a month. She also loved her dog much more than she loved me. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.